system, Houston area schools, Houston Community College, Lee College, all the academic and medical centers. So, as you probably know, most of my clients are PeopleSoft market clients. The UTPA is a little unique in the sense that you guys are eBiz, and I've seen other schools in Florida, Embry-Riddle, other places that have e-business. My background, I started my career about 12 years ago with Accenture, and I was in the PeopleSoft practice. So I've got a lot of PeopleSoft experience, but in between then and now, I actually led 1 or 2 EBS implementations. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been pretty much on the consulting sales side. So strictly working higher ed, working with lots of colleges to implement new PeopleSoft products, EBS products, or do upgrades. And on the phone, we have Darren Corfield. Darren, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, you betcha. Darren Corfield, I'm a technical manager with Oracle. I've been with Oracle for about 13 years now. Of those 13 years, 8 of those years I've been running a technical upgrade team. What we do is we specialize in upgrading e-business Oracle applications. Been doing it for a lot of years. A lot of my team's been with me for a lot of those years, so we have a lot of good experience and so forth within the team.
Great. So if you don't mind, really quickly, if you can just say your name, what group you're in, so we get a sense of kind of what your interests are. So I guess we'll start with you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Joy Nojosa, Assistant Director from the Systems and the DBA team.
Okay.
PMO Services.
Okay.
Richard Ramsky, DBA.
Okay.
Dave Russell, DBA.
Great.
Roy Rodriguez, System Administrator.
Okay.
Graham Toll, Program.
Okay.
Isabel Rayhan, Protection Control.
Randy Chia, Associate Director, HR and Process.
Okay.
Masahualo, HR Business Analyst.
Chelsea Lopez, Business Analyst.
Maria Unicorn, Business Analyst.
Amy Sandoval, Business Analyst. Irene Ozara, Business Analyst. Esther Dominguez, PMO, Project Management Office.
Right.
Victor Rios, Access Administration.
Okay.
Stephanie Infante, I'm the development manager. We would like to see a little bit more. We're trying to see what we need to do to go to R12.
Yep.
We need to do an assessment, so we're trying to get a bigger picture of what we really don't know.
Yep.
So I hope this will help us there.
This should. Yep.
Michael Arbong, Project Management Office.
José Luis Gómez, Programmer Analyst.
Melissa Garza, Access Admin.
Alvin Vasquez, Program.
Dolores Gonzalez, DBA.
Antonio Martinez, Program.
Okay. Great. So we have a great representation from kind of the technical DBA staff, and we also have some functional sides too. So this is a great crowd.
Can I just make one request? As you ask questions, please speak loudly so we can, we have those questions captured. Thanks.
Great. So, Darren, I'll speak for about a couple of minutes here, and then I'll kind of let you drive in, and you and I can kind of tag team on the conversation. But this process of upgrading is very typical for us. I see a lot of schools where it's PeopleSoft or EBS, and the process is fairly similar in the sense that we have conversations like this. I talk to Michael, kind of assess where your current versions are at, where you need to move, what your support cycle looks like, what your current issues are, customizations, schedule. So we start gathering a lot of that information up front. Another part of this whole process is, and some of you may have been part of this, others may not, we've submitted some scripts that we've asked you to run. And we run that on the system, and we gather and compile a lot of information regarding your customizations, your data size, your server setup, databases, etc. We take that information and we start putting together a package, so to speak, in terms of what it takes from a technical perspective to upgrade you to R12. And so that's in process, Michael. I think there's 1 or 2 other scripts that we were trying to get some more information on.
Okay.
If we can get that pretty soon, we can turn around and get you a scope back. But essentially, there's 2 components to every upgrade. There's the technical upgrade piece, which is the nuts and bolts of moving from version 11.5.10, I think you're running,
yes,
to R12. And that's what Darren's group is specifically focused on. They do this day in, day out, so they've got this whole process pinned down. There's also a wrapper service, additional service, the second part, which is the functional consulting side. So depending on how big of a move, if you're moving in PeopleSoft, if you're moving from 8 to 9, that's a considerable change, 11 to R12. You saw some of the new changes. Maybe some of the stuff was pretty similar to R12 or we're in the new version. So you may or may not need a lot of functional consulting help. And that will be part of the estimate too. So there's two components of the functional upgrade piece and the technical upgrade piece. So what we're going to talk about today predominantly is the technical piece, but we also discuss the functional aspect of it too. So you'll see a little bit of our approach, methods, and Derek could probably even talk about past clients and what we've done for other schools. So Darren, I'll let you drive for a few minutes, kind of through the PowerPoint, and feel free to ask questions along the way if you're scratching your head. And, I'll see if you're kind of spacing out. If we need to pause and kind of go back or something like that, we'll certainly take our time with it. So, Darren, you want to take it from here?
Okay, great. Up on the screen there, we have a standard presentation that we threw together. I'm actually part of a bigger organization, what Rupal's talking about, and we'll go into that here in a second, where an upgrade consists of functional and technical. The technicals actually can be broken out into several areas as well, which we'll talk about. But the overall organization that I'm involved in is something called GSD. Basically, it's Global Service Delivery. And what that means is we're basically based around the world to provide a 24/7 coverage on all upgrades that we do, and I'll go into describing my team here in a little bit. But basically, we are part of a big organization that does offer quite a few more services than just the technical upgrade piece. The slide that's on the screen right now, do you guys see the GSD service for R12 upgrade slide?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what this is, in the overall GSD services, we have my piece, which is the upgrade piece on the bottom left-hand corner of it. But basically what we're showing here is that the GSD has a bunch of services that can be added on to any upgrade as necessary, sort of like a pick and choose type of a menu system. If, for example, you need on top of your upgrade, if you don't have enough resources to do proper testing of the environment, once it's been upgraded, we can add additional services there and assist you with that, trying to reduce the amount of overall project time and keeping the cost down by doing that, to just to throw more testing resources out to make sure that your business processes, business flows are working as you expect it. As Rupal was talking about the customization, we're looking at giving you guys some numbers around that as well. So that's basically part of the GSD as well, where we can upgrade your customizations along with basically a technical upgrade of your 11.5.10 system to R12. These are just, as I said, additional services, and we can talk to them as necessary, but I'm just going to leave it at that, just to let you know that the GSD does have additional services other than the tech upgrade that we can assist you with as necessary. It's not required, definitely, for the technical upgrade. It's just something that can be put in on top of it. And again, just as Rupal said, keep it Q&A. If I need to be interrupted, just jump in and ask any questions as necessary. So this is just describing the additional services. So in the overall project overview of an R12 upgrade, there's different components to make an upgrade successful, different teams that are necessary to do that. Everything from the planning piece of it to going live and making sure that everything is successful once the go live actually happens. A lot of components need to be pulled together. right from yourselves to the technical team, to the functional team, as Rupal talked about, to possibly adding in customization assistance or training assistance, testing assistance, and so forth. The major component within this slide here for my team is the upgrade services in the middle there, where we talk about the iterations that are necessary to complete an upgrade. And again, what we typically do for an R12 upgrade, and this is just something that we've learned from trial and error, is that we find that most customers like to have multiple iterations, and for R12 we find that number to basically be three test iterations and then the go live. And that, of course, is customizable. We can knock it down to 2 or go up to 4 or 5 or whatever comfort level that is necessary to get you guys to R12. But during the upgrade iterations, the first iteration is typically where we go in and from a technical point of view determine what issues we're going to have with the instance, make sure everything's documented and recorded correctly. Therefore, when we go to iteration 2, iteration 3, and then into production, everything will be consistent from that point forward. So the testing teams will be getting back an identical instance every time we complete an iteration. And as I stated, those iterations are completely customizable. We can add or subtract as necessary. But from this slide, an upgrade from 11i to R12 is definitely more than just a technical upgrade. The technical upgrade is definitely a component of it, but you can see here, just as any project, you would have to start off with detailed planning to make sure that that the project plan is laid out and deadlines are set on that plan to make sure that the overall go-live date can be met and so forth. And then within there, you have your Chemly remediation and testing support. Chemly, just for people that don't know, is basically Oracle Customizations. It's an acronym that Oracle has created. It's basically stands for customizations, extensions, modifications, localizations, and interfaces. It's just a Chemly or acronym that describes any customization that you could possibly have within the Oracle application. The next component of it, as I was talking about, is the iterations necessary to complete to make sure that everybody's comfortable after the upgrade's done to go through necessary levels of testing and so forth. If there's any third-party tools, those definitely need to be looked at as well as part of the upgrade project to make sure that if any migrations needed there or configuration changes to go to R12 is completed. And the biggest one that I look at in here is testing. Testing is a very critical component of any upgrade to make sure that the business processes and flows and procedures and so forth that you have within your 11i instance are working correctly in your newly upgraded 12 instance. And to do that, you have to make sure that you have thorough testing and make sure that every piece and component is tested. Throughout the entire project, one thing that we do, and this will be a good point to sort of describe what my team or how my team is laid out. But in any project, there's always going to be some patch fixes, data fixes, scripts that need to be run against the instance. Those are the updates and fixes here on this slide. But just to give you an idea of a benefit of my team here, with the upgrade iteration as well as with the update and fixes, my team is set up so we run 24/7. So we run 24 hours a day by 7 days a week. We are split across North America. I have several resources in different time zones in North America, as well as we have a data center set up in Bangalore, India. So what that allows us to do, for example, let's say your testing teams are in there and playing with one of the instances. They determine that, okay, there's a problem on this instance, and we find that there has to be a patch that has to be applied. What we do in a case like that, depending on, of course, how critical it is and if it needs to be fixed right away or not, but typically most patches are minimal, and we like to keep downtime even during testing to minimal. So what we'll do is record that patch, take that patch as a task. I'll have one of my typically offshore members, apply the patch at an appropriate time. Let's say it's midnight Eastern or 2 a.m. Eastern or whatever's appropriate. Therefore, what happens is the person testing it can move on and go and test another area, and by the time they come in the next morning, they're going to come back and the patch will be applied or the fix will have been applied to the instance, and then they go back and test it. Therefore, it reduces some of the downtime for that person so they can continue testing different areas and so forth. Another advantage of that type of a system that we provide is we're able to get these upgrades done, even in the test iterations, done relatively quickly because, let's say, for example, you had some folks come on site to do the upgrade. You may get an 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour day out of them completing the upgrade process. They'll have stuff run and overnight, and possibly if it ran, great. If it didn't, if it failed, then you'd have some dead time there. But with the 24/7 coverage, what we do is on the test iterations, we run 24 hours by 7 around the clock. There's always somebody on there monitoring the upgrade, making sure that the upgrade is going smoothly and any issues that have come up are fixed. And this is very important during your go-live window as well, because as everybody knows, we want to make sure to keep the actual production downtime as minimal as possible. So by having a 24/7 rotation of a shift, we're able to keep that upgrade going and ideally get the upgrade done in a weekend, therefore eliminating as much business downtime as possible. The last components of any projects, of course, is making sure that the project team as well as the end users are trained and know how to use the system when it's going to be released. And then once go-live happens and so forth, making sure that the environment is tuned and working correctly for the people that are actually out there using it. So as you can see, just sum up the slide, the overall project pulls together multiple teams and is really a team effort. It's not just a customer, here you go, this is upgraded instance, we're going to hand it back to you, away you go, you guys go use it. It's really a team effort where once it's upgraded, we work together as you guys to support that instance and make sure that everybody pulls together to make a successful project.
So Darren, thank you for that. Let me jump in real quick. So to kind of explain this a little in further detail, so the strategy and planning process we're doing right now. So we're having this discussion. You know, Michael's looking at the support windows. We're gathering more information. The delta analysis portion is this additional service, this whole notion of, you know, you're transforming from 510 to R12. You need consulting help typically to get from one version to another version from a functional standpoint. So those of you in HR, financials, we're going to provide in our estimate consultants along with the upgrade lab estimate to help you through that process, the delta analysis. Essentially, what are the differences? You know, what do you need to be prepared for? How do you need to set up the system differently? How will your business processes be different in the new version? We also provide additional services for any ChemLeads or customizations that you may have that you want to true up to the new version. You may have a technical staff that can do that on their own. It's certainly up to you. And then we can be around for testing support too. Any questions on this? I know it's a lot of information, a lot of different phases.
Rupa, I'm not sure if I'm jumping ahead here. Just for the actual technical upgrade without dealing with the customizations and so on, just to get R12 up and running with our current setup data. So what's the average timeline for that? Like 3 weeks, a month, 2 weeks to just get that up and running, now without dealing with the retrofitting of the customizations?
So there's a couple of things in there. So there's duration and effort. So duration for an upgrade can be as fast, and then Derek can correct me, as fast as 5 or 6 months, as long as 12 months. Now the technical upgrade piece, independent of all that, Darren, that's a lot quicker. What's your estimate on doing that portion alone?
Well, and the technical upgrade really falls into the overall project, right? Because we can come in and complete technical iteration after iteration after iteration, but doesn't really do the project any good. So what happens, depending on how long the project is going to be and what testing resources are in place and what functional resources are in place, but we come in, we do iteration number 1, as you can see on the slide here, and then basically that iteration is released to the functional team, to the testing team, and they go in and determine how long that they need to test that instance, make sure that the instance is working to the way that they want it and so forth. Once they're comfortable with that instance, we typically would go into iteration 2, repeat the process, and then release it back for the testing team to basically do the same thing. And like Rupal said, depending on how long the project is, the testing team is there to support you through the project. The upgrade team is there to support you through the project. So the testing team is in there playing with the instances. They determine a patch needs to go in. We're there to apply that patch. We're there to assist with determining that patch is needed and so forth. So we're there for the complete project. Iteration number 1, from a technical point of view, typically takes 7 to 10 days because that iteration is used to, again, like I said, document procedures, make sure that we have everything regarded to the instance documented, because every customer that we go to typically has some unique issues on their instance, so we make sure that all those items are documented for going forward. Iteration 2, we cut that time down from a technical run from 10 days to about 5 days, because everything's documented, so we want to go through it and get it back in you guys' hands relatively quick. Iteration 3 would be a timing run exactly identical to what production is going to be. That way we can come back and say, okay, from a technical point of view, it's going to take X number of hours to get the instance upgraded, and that's what your go live technical downtime is going to be. And then we go into the go live, and away we go. But whether the project, and we've had R12 projects that have come in 3 months, and we've had ones that have been up to 12 months, and we're there basically to support it through the whole process.
To answer your question?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions on this slide? Feel free. It's early. It can be a little confusing.
Actually, that 7-10 days or 5 days for each of those iterations, that does not account for functional testing, right?
Right. This is just the core technical piece.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
So we still need to build functional testing time into that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's why your timelines can run 3 months to 12 months.
Gotcha.
What's the business transformation, change management portion? Some schools can do it in 3 months. They have fewer business processes, flatter organization, decision making's a lot quicker. If you're distributed and you have a lot of different departments and groups, and you need to take some time to get together and make sure decisions are collective, then that's usually the piece that draws it out.
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, everything is through a committee here. So
Okay.
that means that it will add to the...
Well, that's fine if there's a good structured governance to kind of make decisions within that committee. So, I mean, my experience, I've seen typically 8 to 10 months would be, the median.
That's not accounting for any new enhancement, not any module added, right? Just getting 11.5.10 or whatever previous version is up on 12.
Yeah, well, I've seen some in that time frame that spin up a new module here or there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that may push it out a month.
Sure. Gotcha.
But the interesting thing about Darren's group is how many do you do a year, Darren? Maybe like 100 of these? 80?
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah. So this is a repeatable process. So if you can imagine doing all these upgrades nationally, internationally, coming up with a process and a method, this is what they do day in and day out. So it's kind of a solid, almost insurance policy, so to speak, for doing the technical upgrade. The challenge is always kind of the functional side. What changes need to be made for we have a lot of repeat customers in the Solution Center. Okay, what else did I want to say? So, the delta analysis is kind of the functional fit gap, or delta fit gap is what we call it. The testing and the Chemly, the customizations, truing that up, testing, plus the purple stuff, which is Darren's group. Now, there are a bunch of other things that we look to our customers to assist with, strategy and project planning. Michael's working on that, and then training the end users. So you may want to go to training, understand R12, and then create a package and begin training other users at UTPA. Do you have a training group? Do you have like a team that?
Yes, business analysts.
Okay. They're here. Good. All right. Cool. All right. Darren, was there anything else you wanted to say on this slide?
No, nothing on this slide.
Okay. Any last questions on this? I think we're going to get a little bit more detail with the upgrade process. And if we're not talking about it on the PowerPoints, we can certainly get into any discussion. Just fire away questions. All right, Darren.
Okay, basically, as I talked about, the GSD has multiple levels within it. The team that I work with is the Application Solution Center, which provides upgrade services, implementation services, and so forth. And we actually do it across multiple business areas as well, so eBiz or PeopleSoft or JD Edwards and so forth. So it's a group that's been modeled across multiple areas, and it's definitely something that we specialize in, something that we're very good at, and we definitely do it all the time. So what we have here is just more or less breaking out that the one big slide, and basically at the top of it, I look at it as really a joint effort between Oracle as well as the customer, that we just don't throw an upgrade project at a customer. We come in and we make sure that you have enough information to be able to plan this as appropriately and work with you guys on that. From a technical point of view, we initiate discussions on more information around your technical environment, how it's laid out right now, how it's working, what information that we need to be able to gather to be able to do a successful upgrade, and so forth. With my team, we are a 100% remote team. We do come on site if it is required, but for a typical engagement, we are 100% remote, so we need some sort of VPN connectivity into your guys' boxes, because typically on most of our engagements, we typically use the customer servers or customer hardware to do the upgrade on. We do have the ability to pull it within Oracle and do one or two or whatever number of iterations internally on hosted environment. But I would probably say 95% of all engagements that we do, it's all directly on customer servers. Therefore, your data stays local to you. All we do is we connect in through typically a software VPN and work directly off your guys' instances. The second part here, going back to the iterations, one thing that I just want to make sure clear that this slide talks about is we don't upgrade just the Oracle applications, because the Oracle applications really consist of a lot of major components that Oracle has. So you have your Oracle database, you have your technology stack to run that database, you have the technology stack to run the applications, you have the actual applications themselves. So what we do in each iteration is we take everything and upgrade each major component. So, for example, I believe you guys are on 9.2008 of the database. So as part of the upgrade, we'd be bringing the database to 10.204 or to 11G, depending on what we get from the initial planning discussions where you guys want to be. So that I just want to make sure is very clear that it's not only an application upgrade, it's a complete technology stack database as well as application upgrade that we do on each individual iteration. And as I was talking about, on those iterations, we have everything documented. We come come in and make sure that iteration 1 looks like iteration 2 and iteration 3, because there's nothing worse than on a technical upgrade that if you're finding different results between your iterations. And that's where consistency comes into play, that everything's documented from that first iteration. We take our time, make sure that we get all the items documented and the procedures worked out, and take that forward from iteration 2, iteration 3, and go live or whatever. And then, like I was talking about during the complete project, we're there to assist with any types of fixes that are necessary. If you run into issues with different areas of the applications, we're there to assist with debugging and identifying what fixes are necessary and so forth. And we talked about before, the 24/7 model really helps to facilitate that we're able to fix stuff overnight and have you guys come in the morning and making sure that reducing the amount of time that your users are sitting idle, because we're able to fix that stuff and get them going. And then lastly, when everything's said and done, this is a standard offering that we do. We typically give a certain time period of post-production support that the actual upgrade team is in play to help make sure that the go live is successful, but also within the GSD, and we'll talk about this in a couple slides down, but if you remember from the first slide, the GSD has multiple teams, and one of those teams is a team that can assist with post-production support if you need something that's longer than what the upgrade team can provide. We have a team that can actually give some very good assistance with production support if necessary. Rupal, anything to add to this slide?
No, just a quick question on database going for, I think you're run on version 8, is that what you said?
That's correct.
And going to 10?
We're planning on doing the 10G upgrade, 10.204, before we get.
So what's the source database version? I had on the question here 9208.
That's correct.
Okay.
What we're planning to do is to go ahead and do the upgrade separate for the database, to do 10.204 before we do the release.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you can definitely do that as a two-phase, no big deal. We've had customers do that. The only caution I would do there is with doing it as a complete upgrade where we do the 9208 to 10204 and then the application upgrade, what that does is it reduces the amount of testing that testing teams may have to do, because typically any customers that I've worked with that have done the database upgrade, they still have to go through a thorough round of application testing to make sure that the database software hasn't affected anything from the application side. So that's why in the upgrade iterations, we typically like to build the database upgrade in there just so your amount of testing on your side doesn't have to be as extensive, doing basically two rounds of testing, one for the database and then one for the applications. But we've had customers do either or, so it doesn't really affect the upgrade if the database is sitting already at 10204. It just reduces the amount of downtime and effort involved.
Yeah, I think from our point of view, yeah, it reduces the downtime, but also any issues we can pinpoint that it's 10G related, not release 12 related. So I think our point of view is to break that up. It would be better for us.
Right, understood.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay. All right. Keep moving along.
Okay, so I'll go forward. And then just a further breakout from that initial project slide where we have the ChemLead or the customization support here as well as the testing. And again, like I talked about at the front, the GSD can assist with any customization migration that has to happen or changes and updates to that and so forth. And then we also have testing teams that come in and assist with doing testing. But, and Rupal made a statement of this, if you have resources in site that can do this, then great, but it's just a matter of making sure that these components are picked up and completed, because it is definitely a necessary part of any upgrade.
Quick question, what is CEMLI?
That's our catch-all phrase for customizations.
Yeah, so basically, CHEMLI stands for customizations, extensions, modifications, localizations, and interfaces. It's just basically any type of customization that can be in an e-business application suite, and they just sort of made an acronym to stand for that.
As part of that, you would give us a list. Is that what that means? You would give us a list of what makes up all the CMLI objects?
So one component that's going on right now, and Rupal talked about it at the start of the conversation, was we have several scripts out there that we request to be run against the instances. And what they do is they attempt to identify all the customizations of that instance. So what they actually do is they compare a base 11i, in your case 11.5.10 instance, to what these scripts produce, and hopefully they can identify any customization within the instance. Of course, hopefully you have some documentation to compare it to, but what we've tried to do with those scripts is to compare it to a base 11i instance and hopefully identify everything that you have within there.
Does that get into specifically on the application side, like custom responsibilities and custom menus? Does it list that too?
Not a lot there, because typically custom responsibilities and custom menus and so forth come across with an application upgrade. This is more related to custom forms, reports,
more of the
workflows, and
database objects and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You guys have a full list. You keep track of all your changes.
Rick?
Yeah, answer understood. Now, how would you characterize it? Is it a lot of customizations out there, or a few, or
We got a lot.
a lot?
A lot. I'm not sure if you see the list based on the script that we sent, but we do have quite a bit of customization since we went live September 06.
Okay.
I have a question regarding each module. Like for this upgrade, does each module have to be in the latest roll-up patch or family pack, or it doesn't matter?
Darren, do you hear that question?
I didn't hear that one. Can you repeat it for me?
Does it matter for this upgrade to release 12? Does it matter if each module do they have to be in a certain roll-up patch or to the latest roll-up patch or family pack?
Does each module have to be in its latest?
No, definitely not. One thing that they did with R12 was anything above 11.5.8 can go directly to R12. So it doesn't matter if you're, for example, you're sitting on 11.5.10 and you have the latest Financials Family Pack installed or don't have it installed. Doesn't make a difference for the R12 upgrade, because we can take you directly to the latest R12. Anything below 11.5.7, and this isn't, I'll just put this out there for information, but it's not your case. Anything below 11.5.8 to 11.5.7 and below actually has to be upgraded to 11.5.10 first and then taken to R12. So it's actually a dual-step process. So seeing how you guys are on 11.5.10, that's not necessary, but it's just more for information's sake.
Someone tell Uzma that we don't need to do the 176 patches.
Thank you.
We're talking about customization just now. If those are like fast formulas or allowable customization, are they okay with this upgrade, or?
I wouldn't know. Darren, do you?
Can you repeat it again for me, Rupal?
For the fast formulas, are those
Okay.
screwed up, or is that how's that handled? Do you know?
That one I'm not 100% sure of, but typically, as it's within the application, it's going to come across. It may need some modification to work correctly with R12, but anything from an application point of view, just whether it be a responsibility or menu or a fast formula, all those items are within the instance, so they definitely do come across. They need to be tested to verify that they're continuing to work as they're expected to, but they definitely will come across with it.
What about big change in the OA framework, switching from form-based to web-based. But what about form personalization? If you're not using form anymore, whatever form personalization we have, will it still work with the new version?
So form-based versus web-based, what was it, search capabilities?
Form personalization.
Form personalization.
Yeah, there's form personalizations that we've done on some of the forms, and if they were basically, the idea of moving off to the HTML base, do those personalizations come over? That's what she's trying to ask.
So right now, what you're saying is, if you have a form defined within 11.5.10, and if you believe that moves to web-based in 12, is that personalization going to come across?
Exactly.
I don't recall any customer who's actually asked a question like that before, so I don't have an answer on that one. Because with R12, you still definitely, for example, financials and so forth, everything is still forms-based. So I don't know of any forms that have actually been changed back to self-service or to the HTML framework. Personally, that may be an item that we could take away RuPaul and pass it by the functional guys.
Yeah, I'm writing this down.
What about HR? You mentioned financial still form-based, but what
HR.
about HR? Like the person form and things like that, because we use form personalization to suppress social, so we can allow other departments to avoid discrimination.
I don't know.
You'll find out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Darren, you talked about one of the phases testing. I have a question. Just trying to get a better grasp and understanding of the level of effort for testing. What we know so far in terms of what we need to test are the customized processing objects, the functionalities of each of the modules, the interfaces, workflow, fast formulas, any reports, and interface with third-party application and third-party applications. Are there anything else that we need to be looking at from a testing standpoint?
No, it sounds like a pretty encompassing list. And basically with the testing, it really, the way I look at it, is whatever you have in 11i for processes and so forth, you have to make sure that you know the changes to R12 to make sure that you can continue to operate as you were in 11i. And by doing that, you get in there and you test and test and test and make sure that all processes work as appropriately. And one thing that a lot of customers like to do on any upgrade they were engaged with is to take it through a complete either a month or a quarter close as well, because that's really something that you don't do day to day, and you want to make sure that processes like those work as well to make sure that you can complete your month end or complete your quarter end or year end or whatever. So that's really a key component there too.
Okay. So one of the things that will help with that process is this first upgrade iteration. So, that comes back to you typically to assist the Delta FitGet process. So when you see your information in R12 and you start tooling around with it, things start breaking or things aren't working as they should, you'll know whether you've captured everything or not.
But before we can even go into the fit gap analysis or the delta analysis, as you call it, we need to come up with an inventory of things we need to test, right? On interfaces, customizations, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, is that where your scripts going to help us gather all that information? Like the interfaces, workflows. I know the script you sent us, the latest script that you sent us, only identified custom process. What about, all the other things that I mentioned, like the interfaces, workflows, form personalization, fast formulas, and all those things? How do we go about?
I don't think it's going to catch all the interfaces. I think it's all local and native to the application. So if you've got, and I could be wrong.
So we need to come with that list ourselves and provide you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the full, catalog of information that you kind of need to come bring up during the fit gap process or Delta process and make sure we capture all that. So there's a little bit of work to do with that too.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I've got your questions about fast formulas and then forms and suppressing information. Did I miss anything else?
One personalization,
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right, so I got fast formulas, form personalization, suppressing forms. Okay. All right, Darren.
Okay.
Back to you.
What I've done here is I've thrown in a slide, sort of a flow chart slide here that talks about the process of from a technical point of view, getting from 11i to R12, and it just walks through each individual step of how we get there. If, for example, in the middle of the slide here, you're already sitting at the appropriate database level, then a database upgrade is not needed. We just skip that and then move down and continue. So it's just a really high level talking about different components of what you need to do to get you there. As I talked about above in the very top here, it says if you're 11.5.7 or later, then you can go directly and start your upgrade. And if you're not, then you got to get to 11.5.10, and then you can proceed with your upgrade. And that's really one key component that a lot of people look at, just seeing what version they're at and how they're going to get there and how fast they can get there. So is there any question on this slide at all?
I think we're good. We're okay.
Yeah. So, as I talked about on one of the first slides there, the upgrade is not Oracle coming in and doing the upgrade. The upgrade is a joint effort between multiple teams, and those multiple teams can be built up by Oracle or by you guys or whatever is really appropriate. This slide here just talks about some of those components of who would be responsible, but just take into effect, though, that Oracle can assist. That way you're not overwhelmed with a lot of them, or to keep costs and so forth down. We can direct you in what needs to have to happen here and so forth. And it's just a check off of some of the components that are required for doing an upgrade. So just from the top down, we would require an instance to do the technical upgrade. That's something that, of course, you guys would need to provide. VPN connectivity would be a joint effort between Oracle and you guys. That way we make sure that we work within you guys' security standards as well as what Oracle has the ability to be able to do. Pre-functional steps. On any upgrade, there's always steps that have to happen from a functional point of view. This can either be a customer-owned environment or step, or we can assist with that. Either or is appropriate there. Upgrading the app's underlying database. If you upgrade the database before here, then of course this would just be upgrading apps, or it can encompass both. And so forth, just walking through the rest here. I'll just open up the questions here at this point on this slide.
So would this be similar to your coaching and mentoring approach, more or less?
No, we don't really do coaching, mentoring anymore.
Okay, we don't do that anymore.
Not really. We tried that a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that wasn't
too.
very successful. So we moved beyond that. I don't know. There's a lot of history there, so I don't know.
There's a lot of history here too.
Yeah. So no, this is very hands-on, especially from the technical piece. A lot of our clients buy the lab services. Lab is synonymous with Solution Center, what Darren does, because it's kind of an insurance policy. We do all the heavy lifting, quite frankly. We don't work in a bubble, like Darren said, but it's clients like it because it's fixed price, it's inexpensive, it gets the job done. Then there are other wraparound services, as I mentioned, the functional, kind of help you identify the changes in business processes from different versions. For upgrades, it's a lot less than for a new implementation because you're just, it's a delta. It's not a true new fit gap process. So, yeah, I mean, the timelines are 3 months, as Darren said. I think that's pretty aggressive. Those are certain client situations. Typically, median's like 8, 9, 10 months, maybe 12 months. So. Any questions on this slide? Do you guys do a lot of performance testing, loading? You guys use Mercury Loader or anything like that?
No.
So no real, not a whole lot of issues there. Okay, that's good. You guys have a pretty strong DBA support group. How do you categorize the functional side? Is there, you guys have years of experience, like at least 3 or 4 with the product, maybe 5? No? Okay. I mean, is that something that you guys would be interested in getting some support and help with and getting to R12? Or is it still early? Okay. Okay. So, you know, what we're going to propose, and I'm going to give to Michael, is I'll give you the full laundry list of, you know, items and checklist. And whatever you guys are comfortable with, you know, we can adjust that. Okay.
Now, do you recommend that all functional technical teams attend the R12 training prior to the upgrade?
Yeah, well,
I mean, right before the upgrade?
you want your core team who are making decisions go to training.
Right before?
Yeah, before. So that the fit gap, the Delta fit gap sessions are more meaningful.
Sure.
It's really, you know, you want to see your own data in the application. You want to match that against some demo data and look at your old system and be able to kind of look at all the differences.
Are there particular type of classes you recommend for the functional DBA programming team? Or are they pretty much listed on the Oracle website? Just go in there and pick and choose.
They're on the Oracle website, but we should give you a short list of classes.
Yeah, we can get a list of, you know, what they should be taking.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the item there for the implementation is the team training.
Yeah.
Everybody. So from a functional side and the technical side.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, and as far as when you go live, you want to take the trainer approach, and I mean, you have facilities here. That's just, you don't want to pay us for that.
So it's good for free.
Well, then I wouldn't have a job. All right, Darren.
Do you have training just for the upgrade, like from this version to this version?
They-
before and things like that, instead of
I've
going
seen
through all
Delta.
the things?
Yeah. I think they call them Delta classes. I think they do have those. It's just, yeah. So you're not sitting in there, you know, the first day and a half, and you're like, I already know all this stuff, you know. So I think they have Delta classes. I'll check on that. I'm pretty sure they do.
Okay, so as Rupa was talking about, teams like mine really do present an insurance policy for you guys. What we do bring to the table is we lower the cost of an upgrade. So, for example, instead of having the technical folks come out on site and having to pay expenses and so forth, we do lower our costs by being 100% remote, making sure that there's no travel time, no expense time, and so forth. One thing with our resources is my team, that's all we do 100% of the time is upgrades. We specialize in upgrades, and that's what we do 24/7, and that's all we do. So we use our resources for that, and by doing that, we minimize the risk that you would have on an upgrade, just because we come to the table with the knowledge of a lot of upgrades. It's a lot of unique situations. Every customer that we have upgraded, I would say 99% of them have had a unique situation to them, so we bring that knowledge to the table as well. So in a lot of cases, issues that you run into or stuff that we run into during the technical upgrade, we have seen before, just because of the amount of upgrades that we do. So through this, the GSD value is we lower the cost, use our resources that have been trained and specialized in upgrades, and that equals really reducing the risk for you. And just as I talked about in one of the very first slides, is we do have a group that can have or come in and assist with post-production support if it's something that you need. We do, with the upgrade team and the quote that we would provide a minimal amount of post-prod support just to make sure that your go live is successful and that you're up and running before we leave the project. But it's something that you may want to think about if necessary, that we do offer some post-production support if required. And again, this just shows the GSD services that we offer up and above the upgrade team. And I'm just talking about it throughout the whole presentation here. So.
Yeah, so we have a whole group of people all over the world. Romania, India, I think we have. And
Mexico, Latin America, so forth.
Yeah. So, we're obviously a global company from a product standpoint. We're kind of moving that way from the services. We've been doing it, 5-10 years now. And over the last couple of years, we've accelerated that process. So, we're here to help you make sure you guys get full advantage of the investment you make in the software and the database and middleware layer. So whenever I talk to you, Michael, and whenever you have needs, it can be spot consulting needs, it can be full implementation, full upgrade, and we kind of tailor it.
I have a quick question. At the last Hub conference, we were talking about R12 being the underlying architecture for Fusion. What does that mean? Darren, can you answer that?
Yeah, so with what's happening with Fusion is typically R12 is a stepping stone from between 11i and into Fusion. So a lot of the technology that is being built into R12 is the technology base that's going to be used for Fusion. So it's really just a stepping point, basically going from 11i to R12 and then eventually down the road to Fusion. But works the same as the R12 upgrade, that if you're at too low of a version, you're going to have a multiple step to get to Fusion. But if you're able to stay more current, then getting to Fusion is definitely going to be a lot easier. So if, for example, you were below 11.5.8, you had 2 steps to get to R12. So the same aspect's going to work with Fusion, that if you're sitting at 11i, you may have multiple steps to get to Fusion, where if you're at R12, then it's going to be a lot easier migration path.
Socially work? Yeah, I mean, those are the same comments I've heard too.
Anybody else have any questions?
Quite a crowd.
Because they're all excited about the R12 upgrade, that's why.
I'm sure they are.
They're trying to hide their enthusiasm. Okay. No other questions for Darren or Rupa? Anybody? Okay.
All right. Thanks for your time.
I do want to have a side conversation with you, Darren, and a couple other people here. Just to talk about what you need in order for you to come up with the recommendation.
Okay.
Because it seems like there's still a few missing items that you would need.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you say? Can you? Roy? All right, everyone. Thank you. I'll see you at 2:00. Don't forget about that meeting. Come prepared.
Thanks, Darren. Hold on for.
Darren, we can keep you on the line for a few more minutes, please.
Not an issue. Thanks, everybody.